The story begins at the mall where a rich girl, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, was disturbing her, and a cup of coffee spilled on her $100 million high heels. She was confused when a young guy appeared in front of her. He kneeled down and started cleaning the stain on her shoes with his shirt. Seeing this, her ex-boyfriend got even angrier. Then, Sarah offered the guy a date, but his attention was on the bags at the counter, so he refused. Seeing this, Sarah impulsively pulled out her black gold credit card and bought all the designer bags. The next day, she went straight to his house with a proposal. Her parents were shocked, wondering why their daughter had become so serious. Actually, this girl, Sarah, was the heir to a large business empire. But after her parents' divorce, her stepbrother became a major competitor for her inheritance. Now, Sarah suspected her stepbrother was having an affair with an actress. While investigating, an odd guy appeared. When Sarah refused to accept his help, the guy said something she couldn't refuse, for Sarah had to fold bed sheets with him. Slowly, the distance between them reduced, and Sarah couldn't focus on her investigation. It was revealed that the guy's name was Yoon Hao, and the actress had trapped Sarah to stop her. One day, Sarah went to a cafe where all the single girls were looking at one guy. She saw that it was Yoon Hao, who was working as a barista. Initially, she ignored him, but when she was given a discount twice at the billing, and a heart was drawn on her coffee cup, she smiled. From that day on, wherever Sarah went, Yoon Hao seemed to appear. Even at the mall, he appeared in front of her and silently gave her a red rose. Sarah was confused, wondering if this was some new flirting style. A few days later, while Sarah was working in her office, there was a commotion outside. A delivery boy barged in without the secretary's permission. Sarah got a little angry, but the delivery boy insisted that he would give the letter only to the actual recipient and even demanded to see Sarah's ID. Irritated, Sarah slammed the ID on the table, but the next moment she realized that the delivery boy was none other than Yoon Hao. Now, Sarah really began to suspect that this guy was up to something, but Yoon Hao was also misunderstood. His dream was to become a priest one day, and to fulfill this dream, he was working multiple jobs. But the story of Sarah and Yoon Hao didn't end there. Actually, Sarah's father had come from a rich family as a son-in-law, which made him work even harder to establish his place. But being a powerful woman, Sarah was often judged by others. One day, Sarah attended a shareholder meeting at the company, where she felt her talent was finally being accepted. But the old businessmen were making cheap jokes instead of recognizing her talent. Hearing all this, Sarah felt deeply insulted, but she couldn't confront the shareholders. In her anger, she started venting her emotions while washing her car. That's when she saw Yoon Hao there. Yoon Hao said he would pay for the car wash, but he only asked for a coffee in return. Sarah agreed to buy him a coffee, but when they sat at the cafe, Sarah ordered steak for herself while Yoon Hao just watched, feeling sorry. Sarah didn't share her feelings, but she asked Yoon Hao why she kept running into him everywhere. This coincidence seemed strange to anyone, but Yoon Hao's real dream was to become a priest, which was like becoming a hermit. His mother didn't agree with this at all, and they had a huge fight. In the end, Yoon Hao left home and decided to work hard to financially secure his family one day. On the other hand, Sarah, despite being a billionaire, was careless with her life. Her luxurious mansion had become a complete mess. One day, when she saw how dirty the house had become, she immediately called a cleaning service and demanded they send 10 housekeepers. But when the cleaner arrived, Sarah was shocked. The company had sent only one guy, and he was very strong. And this guy was none other than Yoon Hao. However, Yoon Hao didn't even know that the messy house was actually Sarah's. Upon seeing the room, he thought, now I get why the client asked for a powerful cleaner. He started his work, and Sarah was impressed by his organizing skills. After everything was perfect, when Yoon Hao was about to leave, he noticed that the chandelier in the house was broken. He thought he'd help out, but with one mistake, the entire chandelier fell and shattered into pieces. Now Yoon Hao was in shock. How much would this ultra-luxury chandelier cost? Sarah returned home, and once again, it was proven how small the world is. The chandelier that Yoon Hao had broken was worth $6.8 million. Yoon Hao said he would repay the money by working under Sarah, but she immediately refused and said he should just give the money directly. However, Yoon Hao insisted that he would come every day to clean the house until the debt was cleared. Sarah was a little doubtful about hiring a guy as a housekeeper, but Yoon Hao casually mentioned that he was about to become a priest, and he had no interest in women. Hearing this, Sarah thought that the messy house was now perfectly clean, and with her busy schedule, having a helper would be useful. So she agreed. The next day, they went to the supermarket together to buy everything needed for the house, but seeing them, no one would believe they were employer and employee. They looked like a couple. Soon, Yoon Hao was stopped by one of his ex-colleagues. Sarah began to notice how many different jobs this guy had done, because wherever they went, someone seemed to recognize him. Usually calm, Sarah was now becoming quite curious. That day, there was another high-level business meeting. Some old shareholders began with the same old talk, saying women were only meant to look good and weren't fit for leadership. Sarah tried to control her anger, but when she saw they wouldn't even let her serve drinks just because she was a woman, she felt even more hurt and left the meeting. These shareholders had probably forgotten that Sarah had a stepbrother, Zhu Ziyu. Even though they often clashed when it came to insulting Sarah, Zhu Ziyu reacted immediately. The next day, he directly warned the shareholders that if they wanted to keep working at the company, they had to respect Sarah. Otherwise, they would be shown the door, and that wasn't enough. Later that night, Zhu Ziyu entered another shareholder shareholders' gathering and openly warned them again. If anyone mistreated Sarah or forced her to serve drinks just because she was a woman, it wouldn't be good for them. Saying this, he left in his usual attitude-filled style. When Sarah got home that day, she was so tired, she didn't even have the strength to remove her makeup, but her smart and handsome housekeeper Yoon-hao immediately went into help mode. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Shu Zayu. Seeing her brother, Sarah panicked and immediately asked Yoon-hao to hide. If he found out that she had a guy as a housekeeper, he wouldn't believe it. Yoon-hao hid in the bedroom with a small puppy, but just then, a loud bark was heard. Shu Zayu understood everything, but jokingly said he needed to go inside and check. Sarah nervously refused, and seeing her nervousness, Shu Zayu smiled and left. After he left, Yoon-hao quietly came out, apologized, and gave Sarah a beautiful candy box as a gift. Now, the house, which once felt empty, had become lively because of Yoon-hao. He not only organized Sarah's home perfectly, but also started taking care of her lights. Sarah shared all her business frustrations with him without hesitation. But one day, Sarah started to doubt. Did Yoon-hao have another agenda? When she directly asked him, Yoon-hao replied without hesitation, "Yes, I want your money." Actually, Yoon-hao was a church volunteer. His dream was to inspire Sarah to help the poor. Hearing this, Sarah laughed and said, "If you want me to donate, you'll have to give me one of your smiles. I like your smile." Yoon-hao immediately gave a cute smile, and just like that, Sarah's heart melted. The next day, a donation of 1 crore was made to the church. Yoon-hao's mentor was amazed and told him that his smile was a special gift and should be used wisely. From then on, Yoon-hao occasionally showed his charming smile to Sarah, and each time, new gifts were sent to the church. Initially, the donations were only for ration items, but slowly they expanded to laptops and smartphones. Through this process, the biggest change happened in Sarah. The once cold businesswoman slowly transformed into a cute and bubbly girl. While her queen-like attitude remained, she developed an innocence inside her. One day, Yoon-hao's little puppy suddenly ran away. Sarah and Yoon-hao chased after it, and when they reached the door, a famous actress appeared. The atmosphere became tense. This was the same actress that Sarah had once investigated due to her brother Shu Zayu's love life. Seeing Yoon-hao living in Sarah's house, a misunderstanding immediately formed. Sarah was about to speak, but just then, Yoon-hao pulled her inside. She was shocked, but then Yoon-hao gave her another shot. He said that the chandelier he had broken wasn't actually that expensive. He gave money and gifts and officially said goodbye to Sarah. Sarah had 1,000 emotions inside, but she had no excuse to stop him. Then, for the first time ever, Sarah, who never expressed her feelings in front of anyone, asked an unexpected question to a guy who was 12 years younger than her. On her birthday, her father sent a calendula plant, which meant happiness will come. Sarah felt a slight warmth in her heart. The next day was a family gathering, and she thought maybe this was for her birthday. But when she saw the actress there, her mood shifted. It turned out that this celebration was for her brother, Zayu, and his girlfriend. However, Zayu then took out a gift and gave it to Sarah, and it meant he hadn't forgotten her birthday. After the party, when Sarah was leaving, the actress stopped her. There was still a misunderstanding between them, but what she said hurt Sarah inside. As if she had found a reason or was waiting for an excuse, Sarah immediately called Yoon-hao, but Yoon-hao said he was at work. Hearing this, Sarah made another call. Yoon-hao didn't pay much attention to it, but soon, the girl came to him and said, "Your boss called for you." He tried to explain that he was at work, but then the girl directly said that the shop would be closing today. Yoon-hao and the shopkeeper were completely surprised when they heard that his boss had bought the shop. Sitting at the dinner table with Sarah, Yoon-hao thought that Sarah was upset again because of those old men, but Sarah explained that this time, it was because of her family. Her birthday party, which she thought she was included in, had nothing to do with her. Yoon-hao nervously said, "I saw your ID. Your birthday wasn't today." Sarah quickly clarified, "My real birthday is different from what's on the ID." Yoon-hao kept this in his mind. He called the waitstaff and asked to pay the bill. Sarah refused, but Yoon-hao insisted on his point. That evening, when Sarah left work, Yoon-hao was waiting outside near her office. Sarah felt a bit strange that Yoon-hao was being so proactive, but then Yoon-hao pulled out a birthday cake. He thought that Sarah hadn't had cake on her birthday, and he wanted to make it up to her. When Sarah saw Yoon-hao with the cake and candles, she felt a strange warmth inside. Sarah said, "I received a flower on my birthday whose flower language was happiness will come." Yoon-hao was shocked to hear this, and his expression became even more complicated. Sarah took a deep breath and felt like she understood Yoon-hao's emotions. Without saying anything further, Sarah turned around and walked away. Yoon-hao stood holding the cake, as if he had been rejected. Back at the office, Sarah didn't react the usual way. She didn't get anxious, cry, or feel sad. Instead, she joined her hands and prayed, as if she was wishing for Yoon-hao back. Yoon-hao, still unable to understand Sarah's rejection, kept turning her words over in his mind. Passing by a flower shop, he couldn't resist his curiosity. He asked the shopkeeper which flower had the flower language, coming, happiness. The shopkeeper showed him calendula, golden marigold, and said that this flower had another meaning, compassionate love and sadness of separation. At that moment, Sarah was also looking at the same flower and reading the same meaning. Then one day, Sarah saw Yoon-hao come in to meet her again, and in his hand was that same golden marigold. As soon as Sarah approached him, Yoon-hao extended the flower toward her. Sarah's hope quickly turned into disappointment. Yoon-hao's gesture was so painful for her because she understood that his kindness was actually hurting her even more. This time, Sarah didn't waste any more time time, turned around, and walked away. But Yoonhao said something. Sarah gave him a deep look, and then replied. Yoonhao was still confused. Maybe for some time his feelings for Sarah had changed, but this change was very difficult for him, and he decided he would cross this hurdle himself. An unexpected guest arrived at Sarah's office today. He was a man who had intentionally come to give Sarah a special message. His name was Choi Tae-ho, who was going back to South Korea. When Sarah heard this, her face became quite complex. Sarah knew that despite being born to her father and his ex-wife, she was a contender for the inheritance, but her brother, Shu Zai-yu, who was the real grandson of Chairman Lin, was more eligible. Now, if Sarah had to compete with her brother, she would need some external support, and Choi Tae-ho was that support, which had been discussed earlier for marriage. Sarah felt that this marriage was just a business deal, but now that Yoonhao had entered her life, she was confused. If she didn't marry, she would lose the inheritance fight with her brother, but if she married, what would happen to Yoonhao? Looking at the calendula flower in her office, Sarah gathered the courage from within. She immediately called Yoonhao. Yoonhao was at church at that moment, talking to the priest about his feelings. The priest told him that maybe if he wore the priest's robe, he would find answers to his decisions. Yoonhao took the priest's advice and began walking toward the church entrance in the priest's robe. At that moment, Sarah also arrived at the church, and seeing Yoonhao made her heart soften a little. She thought maybe Yoonhao had made his decisions, and now he was ready. Sarah watched Yoonhao as he came down the stairs and tears filled her eyes. Yoonhao realized that Sarah needed to understand, but at that moment, Sarah stopped listening. Yoonhao followed Sarah and arrived in her house. Sarah felt like he was trying to justify his actions, but Yoonhao said, "I know you're married. Your fiancé is Choi Tae-ho." Sarah's face changed instantly because while she was indeed in a relationship with her fiancé, she had never shared her true feelings. At that moment, Choi Tae-ho also entered. He was Sarah's fiancé, and with his royal attitude, he looked at both of them. Sarah knew that this wasn't the time to talk, so she told him how to leave. Choi Tae-ho, entering and showing his dominance, reminded Sarah that everything was business to him. He told her that he had a weak point about Shu Zai-yu. Sarah thought this information might be important. Sarah went to see her brother, Shu Zai-yu, and look at the medical records Choi Tae-ho had given. Shu Zai-yu had serious face blindness after an accident. If Sarah had to do something against her brother, this could be a fatal flaw. But when Sarah realized this, her heart cleared. She took a stand against Choi Tae-ho. Sarah then changed her stance in both business and personal life. Choi Tae-ho didn't like this change, and in anger, he threw money on the road. Sarah felt a bit of hatred seeing this. At that moment, Sarah decided to invite Yoonhao on a date, but when Yoonhao saw a brand new bag in the shop, he slightly ignored Sarah's invitation. But Sarah took out her black card and bought all the high-end bags. Then both Yoonhao and Sarah went to a small street stall. Sarah's mood was still a bit next, but her heart had softened a little, as if something old and new was blending together. Sarah's mind was a bit sad, as she thought that Yoonhao had now become a priest, so she was trying to show her emotions very casually. When Yoonhao noticed her behavior, he directly said to her. Sarah softly replied that she was a bad and fake woman, and she just wanted them to remain friends. Yoonhao smiled a little, and Sarah just kept looking at him. The next day, Sarah told everyone at her family's banquet about her decision. She openly told everyone that she would not marry Choi Tae-ho, as she didn't love him at all. Sarah's father supported her decision and happily stood by her side. Sarah's brother had already known that Sarah's decision wasn't just about not marrying Choi Tae-ho, but also about secretly doing something against her brother. This revelation lightened everyone's hearts, and the wedding obstacle was removed. After dinner, Sarah and her brother were leaving the house. It was the first time Sarah had genuinely called her brother and expressed her decisions. Sarah thought that now she didn't need to fight her brother for the inheritance, as she had something else in her heart, another good decision. A few days later, Choi Tae-ho found out the wedding was off. He angrily went to Sarah's office. Sarah stood calmly and told him that she wanted to break the marriage. Choi Tae-ho got very angry and said, "I was only helping you because I thought you were helpless." And then he threatened her. But when Sarah didn't respond, Choi Tae-ho held back his anger and left the office. Sarah quietly looked at Yoonhao, who was still firm in his decision. Sarah's face had a smile. Her decision was absolutely right. Yoonhao went home and talked to his family after a long time. His family, who had previously opposed his decision to become a priest, supported him now. Yoonhao felt a bit uneasy, as he found the moment uncomfortable. He said nothing and went to his room. His parents didn't say anything, but his sister understood everything. His sister immediately asked Yoonhao if he was in a relationship with someone. She showed a lot of curiosity and bothered Yoonhao. In the meantime, a luxury car stopped near Yoonhao and his sister. His sister saw the car and then noticed a beautiful woman getting out of it. She thought, "Who is this?" And surprised, she said, "Yoonhao chose such a beautiful girl for himself." Sarah thought that her brother would leave Yoonhao, so she felt a little worried. Yoonhao was confused, but he had a good time with Sarah in the car. They made their relationship official and went out for dinner. There, they discussed their future plans. Yoonhao said that now that he wasn't becoming a priest, he was thinking about finding another job. When Sarah heard that Yoonhao was thinking about becoming a judge, she was a little shocked, as judicial exams in South Korea are very difficult. But Yoonhao smiled and told her that he had graduated from the law department of Seoul University, so it was quite feasible for him. Sarah realized that this was why why Yoonhao's family didn't want him to become a priest, because it's hard for any family to accept such a career choice for their child. After dinner, Sarah offered to drop Yoonhao off at home. They talked about meeting each other's parents, and Yoonhao felt that seeing Sarah's family's status might put a lot of pressure on him. When Sarah came out to drop Yoonhao, she said, "You didn't pay your car fare." Yoonhao was a little confused, but he finally decided to drop Sarah off. The next day, when Sarah went to pick Yoonhao up from school, a classmate caught her attention. Sarah initially wanted to ignore him, but seeing Yoonhao, the classmate became a little jealous. Sarah noticed that Yoonhao didn't like his jealousy anymore. Sarah understood that during this time, their relationship had shifted. Now, Yoonhao was feeling possessive about Sarah, and Sarah thought that misunderstandings could arise in the future. So she decided to take a day off to give Yoonhao some space and visit his house to talk to his parents. When Sarah went to Yoonhao's house, she directly told his parents that they needed to talk about their profession. This was going to shock them, but Sarah's aim was to show Yoonhao that their relationship was no longer just between them, but had become a formal commitment. After this, Sarah and Yoonhao's lives became more comfortable and relaxed, and they were solving the pressure between their families first before solving it between themselves. They started spending time together in their own world, and now they weren't afraid of anything, and with that, this story ends.